Hi there, I just ate an entire frozen pizza. Let's talk about Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm about to make some people either really happy or really angry with me with some next level chin move bashing, because I'm about to do a reverse 360 heel flip to a grind on that title and talk about Sonic Frontiers, and Superstars I guess as well, and talk about their place in the Sonic Compendium. By the way, thanks for the video suggestion, Mateo. I don't really know how this video is going to pan out because my opinions on Sonic are a little bit like Avril Lavigne. Skater Boy. On the one hand, I have played so many Sonic games and have deeply fond memories of them, from the nostalgia of the early 90s games playing at my older cousin's house, to the broken as hell Chow Gardens and Sonic Adventure, or even enjoying the rush of Generations or Mania and the celebration. Never mind, I'm just gonna go watch the Game Grumps. What is this? There's like no unavoidable shit! So yeah, on the other hand, I kinda can't stand Sonic, and I think that most Sonic games honestly kinda suck. If you put the average Sonic game in my lap, let's say Heroes of Colors, and you asked me to recommend it over a very much average game from this year, let's say Lies of P. Man, what a good year 2023 has been if this is average. I'm almost never going to recommend Sonic. No matter how they try to shake things up, switch between 2D or 3D, or completely and horribly fail, I almost always come out of the experience making a series of faces only described as, am I satisfied with my BLT from lunch, or do I need to drop a legendary deuce? Take a cursory glance at critical and fan reviews of Sonic games in general. They're all over the dang place. The most well-received Sonic game ever was essentially made by a fan, and honestly, how is just making a good modern emulation of the original game's grounds for such high praise? Are we essentially just saying that Sonic was only ever truly great on the Genesis? Look, a too long didn't watch of this video is basically this. I played Sonic Frontiers and Superstars, and I think it's finally time for 2D Sonic to become a thing of the past, because 3D Sonics have the potential to be better games moving forward. But let's dive in and talk about modern Sonic, and figure out how this outstandingly likable hedgehog is so fast that he is able to outrun the death of his own franchise. Part 1. We're in our 30s now, you and I. Ew, I'm 30 and making a YouTube video? Oh god, what a waste of time. Hey, why not hit subscribe and help me keep making the stuff? We're already over 300 strong with some great content under our belt, and I'm only picking up steam to make more. Hit like so the algorithm helps new people find it. Hit the bell, come back for more. I believe in you. Sonic Frontiers and Superstars, the two most recent 3D and 2D Sonic games respectively. Sonic really has been trying to keep pace with Mario all this time in both dimensions, and how ironic that he always seems a step behind in terms of quality. Let's take a moment and realize that Sonic and I are now in our 30s, only Sonic's joints don't hurt like mine after a round of golf. It's a miracle that the blue blur is still around after all that time, and not only that, but he's sort of booming. Okay, no more puns, I swear. Sonic Frontiers sold over 3.5 million copies in just 6 months way back in May, making it the best-selling 3D Sonic of all time. And though figures aren't currently available for how far it's come since all the DLC and the holiday season, I'd be willing to wager it's passed most of the 2D Sonics dating all the way back to the Genesis games, outselling Sonic and Knuckles and approaching the holy first two. Wow. Booting up Sonic Frontiers only a year after release, I was blasted by a bunch of updates and additional content, including party mode. Yay! It's a celebration, it's a party, we can go ahead and celebrate mediocrity. Alright, you know what? I need to get this off my chest before we go into this video any further. I've never really liked Sonic games. That doesn't mean they're all bad by any means.
Hello there.
Okay, you know what? Some of them are absolutely awful, but it's mostly on me because the roller coaster format does not suit my gameplay needs. Since Sonic is all about going fast and blasting assets, you want to hope that you have at least a modicum of control over his speed. But no. Bugs, bad lock-on mechanics, making me use Amy, Tails, and Knuckles in games where their mechanics do not actually suit the format. Poor performance, clipping through environments.
Alright, I get it!
So even though many of these games are good, most of them fail on the promise that they are going to give you control over the blue blur. But still, I love this boy. Just look at him. Look at him! Sonic's entire existence was marketed by Sega on the most 90s thing imaginable. Attitude. You can almost attribute Sonic's entire personality to the commercials that Sega would run back in the 90s. Basically, the tagline was, Sega does what Nintendo don't. And at the time, that was certainly believed to be true, but many people have retroactively looked back at the Genesis and realized that there was a lot of false promises being made by Sega on behalf of the Genesis. Not only were the Sega Genesis and the Super Nintendo virtually identical in terms of their hardware and overall performance, but the actual blast processing that Sega promised in their consoles was never actually used in any shipped games.
Traitor!
But it doesn't matter. Sonic was born of these ads. Let's jump back to Sonic Frontiers because this is 2023 and not 1991. This is the most truly 3D a Sonic game has been since Sonic Boom. And if we don't count that because that game is an abomination to the family, then the next option is Sonic 06, and that game is
I'm ugly and I'm proud.
Good!
While games like Forces, Colors, and even Generations have partial 3D portions, this is the most wide open Sonic has felt in a functional game ever. Frontiers gameplay is what some might call open world, or director Morio Kishimoto calls open zone, but I choose to describe it as platforming nonsense. Why are all these platforms with rings floating? Who cares? Just go collect stuff and do a kickflip. How does Sonic grind on rails at this speed when he's no longer sponsored by Soap Shoes?
Don't ask questions.
As you traverse the Starfall Islands, Sonic must dive into the Stuffy Pit and collect memory tokens, sound memories, portal gears, the Studio Ghibli Nier ripoff, the Cocos, vault keys to access the legendary Chaos Emeralds, and purple fishing tokens. Oh god, Big the Cat is in this game. At least he's not a big part of it. And you know what? A lot of traditional Sonic is not part of it until the DLC came out. And that's probably for the best. Whether running through 2D cyberspace and all of these homages to levels of Sonic's past, or jumping off all the random junk in the hub world, Sonic Frontiers always keeps the action moving forward. The only way to advance the story is to collect these memory tokens, vault keys, and the proverbial Chaos Emeralds, and luckily there's a lot of opportunities to do so. There's also opportunities for enemies in the field to be dropping them, or I could just go fishing for a bit and I'd be there. Naturally, there's plenty of enemies to fight as well in the overworld without being exhausting, and I gotta give a lot of props because this is the most satisfying combat I've ever experienced in a Sonic. There aren't a crazy number of abilities or combos, but all of them hit like a train and can really mess up bosses or tough field enemies if you use them in the right conjunction with Sonic's Psyloop, an ability that is also used to interact with just about everything in the hub world. Oh, and speaking of the bosses, they're fine. While I adore how you turn into Super Sonic for these fights, and the scenes themselves are so epic, the fights against these Neon Genesis Evangelion-looking, Shadow of the Colossus climbing titans is a little repetitive and stale, and I absolutely hate the night fight. But you know what? It's okay. You know why? Jesus Christ, I'm actually getting hot already in this fucking outfit. What do I do with Sonic? Do I just put him here? As for the story, I don't really know what else to say about it other than Sonic has truly embraced. The plot follows Sonic and his core pals as they fly towards the mysterious Starfall Islands and accidentally get sucked into this weird cyberspace while hunting down emeralds. Over the course of the story, Sonic has to get all of his friends out of cyberspace, while Eggman is also just sort of there. Meanwhile, while learning about the island's history, Sonic learns about these intergalactic species of alien called the Coco, who were drawn here by the power of the Master Emerald. See, their homeworld was destroyed by this thing called the End.
Wow! How original!
And throughout the story, as Sonic frees his pals, he winds up teaming with Eggman's AI daughter robot thing named Sage. I would say spoilers, but that's the entire plot. Between the Neon Genesis Evangelion, Shadow of the Colossus style fights against bosses, Sonic basically just turning into Goku, as he's always been a reference to, essentially, and a lot of the dialogue being one step removed from Sora basically just saying,
"My friends are my power."
This is the most kawaii that Sonic has ever been. So yeah, I'm totally here for it. This is what I want out of a Sonic. I actually really liked it. There. Are you happy, Mateo? I give this game 3.5 Psyloops out of 4. But I can't really give final thoughts yet, because while I did like Frontiers, I can't say the same for Superstars. And that's where modern Sonic gets really interesting. Part 2. You peaked in high school, Sonic. Okay, let's piss some people off, because I think Sonic has mostly always sucked, but no one could see it past all of the... In 1991, 3D games were just not a thing, really. Sure, you could design a game like Zelda, Street Fighter II, F-Zero, but they were all still in a 2D plane, no matter how much you stylized it up. So let's revisit what we talked about earlier concerning Sonic's genesis.
Oh, somebody stop me!
Sonic's origins are rooted in an appeal to American gamers and a desire to market a flagship franchise for the Sega Genesis. This includes a story famously directly tied to Sonic's original character designer, Naoto Oshima, surveying random people in Central Park about what character they liked best. The spikes on his back, to the wings in the logo meant to look like aviation, to the idle poses, Sonic was cool. and so was the Genesis. In between Oshima's stylish character designs, lead programmer Yuji Naka's desire to push the console's processing to the max, and Sega's will to conquer Nintendo through what turned out to be strong exaggerations, Sonic's sole mega drive was to conquer the world. After the Genesis trilogy concluded, Sega started to turn their attention towards the burgeoning world of 3D, just like everybody else was, which is what Sonic does best, play into trends. Sonic 3D Blast was pretty universally agreed upon to be a mediocre affair with its isometric perspective, and Sonic Extreme totally bailed out, bro! They didn't even release it. What a poser, what a shooby, what an absolute narc. But after Sega was done infighting over Nights into Dreams versus Sonic Extreme, Sonic Adventure came out and really hit the ground running, and it came out to uproarious applause and praise, and everyone loved it and still does. But come on. I think it's really commendable how Hirokazu Yasuhara, the original series level designer, basically didn't have design documents and just sketched out all of the different level layouts on pen and paper and then worked with the actual design team to make them work in the original game. There's a reason that all these Sonic levels look amazing while you're rolling around at the speed of sound, but in my opinion, they mostly play like crap. Or at least all of the 2D ones do. I just hate playing them, and that sort of includes Sonic Mania. If they're your cup of tea, then great, and if you have the patience to be pacing through these levels, looking for emerald warps and taking the high route, low route, or middle route, then good on you. But the roller coaster design just doesn't do it for me. Think about it like the difference between algebra and geometry back in high school. Algebra is all about formulas and rote memorization. Just learn to remember the proper PEMDAS and then keep practicing that middle route until you're speedrunning like a true G Fuel drinking gamer, brought to you by G Fuel. Or, in geometry class, you can actually apply the functions to a real world example, a 3D world. It might be messy at first, and don't get me wrong, it is jank between Adventures, 06 Boom, etc. But now I think Sega has all the power to make it happen and leave those mostly crappy games of the past behind. In fact, you know what? Let me do a quick speedrun review of all the main 2D and 3D platformers real quick in that time frame. Jank, nostalgic jank, solid, meh, hilarious.
Excuse me.
What? What the hell? Wherefore art thou the hell? Fine, awful, boring. Literally nobody ever played this one, and you can't convince me otherwise. Genuinely a shock at how bad they are, genuinely good, and then I legit forgot about this one. Now, if you disagree with me, that's totally fine. You're allowed to have your own opinion, and if you like these Sonic games, then great. More power to you. But if everyone's allowed to have opinions, here's mine. Part 2.5, Sonic Superstars is so damn boring I don't even want to talk about it. Sonic just doesn't feel like he has the same snappiness to him. The camera is too close. They double down in several stages on just waiting for platforms, and when you aren't waiting, you just can't register the jumps to keep up with the fast pace when it even exists. I don't care about all these emerald abilities, even though a few are fun and cool, and this fruit stage nonsense is honestly so boring. I'm sorry, what a Mario ripoff of an idea, I just don't care. Now given, I'm enchanted by the art design. This is one of the best looking Sonics ever made. The other playable characters are cute, even though they don't always control great, and hell, people have already figured out how to break the game as Tails. I love in concept how the emeralds act as power-ups at making you actually want to hunt them down in the levels, and some of the cool design choices like having glow bugs in dark levels or having the vision emerald power to reveal hidden paths, they're really clever. But they don't mesh with the core design of this fast-paced 2D platformer. I feel like I'm playing a hybrid of Mario and Crash Bandicoot with the speed sliders just turned way up. There's too much stuff in this game trying to diverge it as a unique title. Pure Sonic 2D is supposed to do one thing: be a roller coaster. When you slow things down, start throwing even more mini-games, new Chaos Emerald power-ups, zooming in the camera way too close, oh my god, back up, you're giving me claustrophobia! You're losing Sonic's identity. You focus so much less on the big beautiful worlds and more on the collectibles that you mess up the camera. Oh my god, back it up, I still can't see anything! But you know where I can see stuff? I can see it here. Now, do I think Frontiers is perfect?
Hell no!
Frontiers has terrible pacing. It is crazy repetitive, and even though I didn't test it and I can't find any solid proof online, I'm pretty sure that you could actually just cheese the entire game and only ever go fishing or finding vault keys instead of actually playing through all the 2D cyberspace portal levels. What is the point? Also, the Final Horizon DLC that everyone is talking about being so hard, holy hell. Okay, first off, they really need to improve the mechanics of Sonic's friends if they're going to stick around in future games, because oh my god, Tails Tails was an absolute nightmare to play as. Okay, just let him be Bentley and do like the Spy Kids like hacking mini games in the series. We don't need him to do anything extra than that. But secondly, I couldn't complete playing the DLC in time because it is so genuinely difficult that I wasn't able to get it done with my busy schedule and making these videos. So if you want me to play them, go subscribe, go comment, tell me what you want. Because as the ethos of this channel is hopefully very clear, we don't got time. But despite all my complaints, I think Sonic Frontiers is a good proof of concept for Sonic moving forward. Now that hardware can actually render environments fast enough for this little blue blur to be kept up with, I think that we don't have to tie Sonic down to these 2D environments and relying on the beautiful artwork of different stages to make him interesting. I think Sonic's future is now in the 3D space, and it's time to leave the past of 2D behind. Conclusion. It's time to grow up. In an article for Polygon last year, before Sonic Frontiers came out, Joshua Rivera wrote an article titled "Sonic the Hedgehog is a burned out millennial like me." In it, he made several really good observations about Sonic as a character and a franchise, including notes about how, quote, Sonic games were brasher, arguably braver. Each level is full of things for you to ignore. Like an interstate highway, a good Sonic level rarely presents more than 2 options at a given moment, and the most interesting path is almost always the one that will let you keep going fast. And, quote, perhaps good new Sonic games are rare because so few incentivize their audience to be good Sonic players, and instead try to reproduce the imagined feeling of the old games. And this point, I think, is the smoking gun of the Sonic franchise. Sonic Mania is the best reviewed game in decades because people think that the only good Sonic games are the ones that exist in the past. As a child in the early 90s, Sonic was clearly gifted and everyone loved to watch him go fast. Once he reached adulthood in 2009, he had no fucking clue what he was doing anymore, and as someone who followed suit 2 years later, relatable.
That's rough, buddy.
For the entirety of the 2010s, Sonic either reveled in the past or awkwardly failed to transition into adulthood like the rest of his friends. And now, post-pandemic, he's got one game in 3D and one in 2D, and he's got a choice to make. He can either keep living in the past and trying to make it look as pretty as possible, or commit to growing up and making good 3D games, a style he's better suited for now. If you're a Sonic fan and you're somehow still with me through all of this, you must sort of agree that the 2D formula is getting really stale no matter how fun some of the games might be overall. 3D Sonic can finally realize its potential with this modern hardware. It can go fast without bugs. It can have a big, beautiful world without keeping you stuck in first gear. It can even have a story that isn't complete shit or camp or rely on weird human characters. Sonic finally has the chance to grow up and utilize his talent in a worthwhile setting, a place he actually belongs. He can brave a new frontier on the adventure of a lifetime, and with the right game, he can boom away from the shadow of 06. Can you tell I wasted tens of thousands of dollars on an English degree? Subscribe. Please like, because that helps recommend the video to more people, and love ya. Laura, what the hell, man? Can you tell everybody to go fast? He doesn't feel like it.